I still remember the exact words my dad said the day I told him I was dropping out of college. "You'll end up begging on street corners, Daniel. Mark my words." That was 12 years ago. Last week, I became his landlord, and he has no idea yet. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, our family wasn't rich, but we were comfortable. Dad worked at the post office for 30 years. Mom was a school secretary. My older brother, Marcus, he was the golden child. Straight A's, full scholarship to UCLA, became an accountant. Then there was me, the kid who barely graduated high school, the one who couldn't sit still in class, the disappointment. Sunday dinners at our house on Maple Street were tense. Mom would serve pot roast, Dad would talk about Marcus's latest promotion, and I'd just sit there, pushing peas around my plate. I wasn't stupid, I just learned differently. But to them, I was the family embarrassment. It was Thanksgiving 2013. I'd been working construction for 2 years, saving every penny. I had this crazy idea. This business plan I'd been working on at night, flipping houses. I knew construction. I understood what made a house valuable. And Portland's real estate market was about to explode. So that Thanksgiving, I made the mistake of sharing my dream. Dad, Mom, I've been thinking about starting my own business. My brother Marcus laughed, actually laughed, through a mouthful of stuffing. "Doing what, Danny? Selling your Pokemon cards?" Dad didn't even look up from carving the turkey. Here we go again. Another one of Daniel's schemes. I pushed forward anyway. "I want to flip houses. I've saved $15,000 and I found this property arc." "Stop." My dad's voice cut through the room like ice. "You want to throw away your savings on some dump? This is exactly why you'll never amount to anything. You don't think, you don't plan, you just waste." Mom reached for my hand. "Honey, maybe you should just stick with construction. It's stable, safe, safe for a failure," Marcus added, grinning. That word, failure, it hung in the air, like smoke. I looked around that table, at the people who were supposed to believe in me, and all I saw was doubt. "You know what?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "I'm doing it anyway." Dad's face turned red. "Then don't come crying to us when you lose everything, and don't expect any help from this family." "Wouldn't dream of it." I walked out of that house on Maple Street. I didn't know it then, but I wouldn't step foot inside again for 12 years. The first year was hell. I bought that property. A complete disaster in Northeast Portland. Roof leaked, foundation cracked, copper pipes stolen. I worked construction during the day, renovated at night, slept in my truck some weeks to save on rent. No calls from family, no. "How are you doing?" Nothing. I sold that first house 6 months later, made $12,000 profit, bought 2 more, then 4. By 2016, I had a crew. By 2018, I had a company, Cascade Property Group, and my family, they had no clue. See, I'd stopped going to family events, stopped answering calls. They assumed I'd failed, just like Dad predicted, and was too embarrassed to admit it. My brother Marcus would post on Facebook about his successful CPA firm and his new Lexus. I'd drive past in my beat-up work truck, heading to close on my 15th property. Let them think what they want, I told myself. But it hurt. It hurt every single day. I was in my office reviewing properties when my acquisition manager, Sarah, dropped a file on my desk. "Foreclosure listing just hit the market. Maple Street, familiar address." I looked down. 3247 Maple Street, my childhood home. My hands started shaking. "How much do they owe?" Sarah checked her notes. $340,000. They're 3 months behind. Bank's moving fast. I sat back in my chair, staring at that address. My parents were losing the house where Dad called me a failure, where Marcus mocked my dream, where I was never good enough. And they hadn't called me. Of course they hadn't. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Marcus's number. Hadn't spoken to him in 4 years. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I stopped. Why should I? They cut me off. They wrote me off. They never once asked if I was okay, if I needed help, if I'd succeeded. Sarah watched me carefully. "What do you want to do?" I looked at that file for a long time. "Buy it," I said quietly. "The house?" Yeah, cash offer, full asking price, close in 2 weeks." Sarah nodded and left. I sat there in the silence of my office, in the building I owned, looking at the picture of that little house on Maple Street. This wasn't about revenge. Or maybe it was. I don't know. All I knew was I was about to become my parents' landlord, and they had no idea their failure of a son was about to own the roof over their heads. 2 weeks later, the sale closed. I now own 3247 Maple Street. My attorney, Jennifer, handled everything through an LLC. My parents had no idea who bought it. The bank sent them a letter. Your property has been purchased. You may remain as tenants. New lease terms will follow. I sat in my car outside the house that night. Lights were on. I could see Dad through the window, probably watching TV in his old recliner. My phone rang. Marcus. First time he'd called me in 6 years. I answered. Danny? Yeah. Look, we've got a situation. Mom and Dad lost the house. Some company bought it. They're freaking out. Silence. Danny, I know we haven't talked, but do you have any money? Like, could you help with first month's rent or something? They're old, man. I'm tapped out with my business expenses. Your business expenses? Yeah. The firm's been slow. I can't just... How much do they need? Maybe 2,000 for moving costs, and I'll handle it. Seriously? Danny, man, thank you. I'll pay you back. No need. I hung up. Then I called my property manager. The tenants at 3247 Maple. Send them a lease, market rate, but add a clause. They can purchase the property back any time in the next year for the exact amount I paid. 0 interest. That's generous. Yeah, it is. The next day, I drove to Maple Street, knocked on the door. Dad answered. Older now, grayer, smaller somehow. Can I help you? Hi, Mr. Morrison. I'm Daniel with Cascade Property Group. I'm the new owner. Just wanted to introduce myself. He squinted at me. I'd grown a beard, put on muscle from years of construction, wore a suit now. He didn't recognize his own son. Oh, well, thanks for letting us stay. We're figuring things out. I understand. Take your time. Mom appeared behind him. Who is it, Robert? She looked right at me. No recognition. Just the new landlord, sweetheart. I smiled. I'll be in touch about the lease. No rush. I turned to leave. Wait, Dad called. Your name's Daniel? Yes, sir. Huh? We had a son named Daniel. Haven't seen him in years. Probably living under a bridge somewhere, knowing him. Mom smacked his arm. Robert, don't. But he chuckled anyway. I stood there on that porch, looking at my father, the man who raised me, who never believed in me. Well, I said quietly, I hope your son's doing better than you think. I walked back to my car, a Tesla now, not that work truck, and drove away. I never told them. I kept the rent reasonable, fixed things when they broke, even upgraded their water heater for free. Marcus called once more, asking if I could help with Dad's medical bills. I paid them, anonymously. Last week, I drove by Maple Street again. Dad was mowing the lawn, looked healthier. He waved at me, just a friendly wave to a passing car. I waved back. Maybe one day I'll tell them. Maybe I won't. The truth is, buying that house didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel sad. Sad that they'll never know their failure son saved them. Sad that proving them wrong doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. I built an empire to escape their judgment, but I realize now, I was never building it for revenge. I was building it to prove to myself that I mattered, and I do, with or without their approval. So here's my question for you. If your family never believed in you, and you finally made it, would you tell them, or would you let them live in peace? Never knowing the truth, I still don't know the answer, but I own the house either way.